Now also in this presentation, I used another word. It's check-in, connect, check-out. Let's say Bob has a severe behavior problem. You would use check-in, connect, check-out only with students who are at risk but have some severe behavior problems. These are students that actually will need an extra point of contact during the day. The check-in, connect, check-out, for example, let's say Bob was profiled in that category where he did have some difficulties in controlling his behavior. So I would propose doing 3 points of contact, which is check in the morning, connect, and then check out. The connect is usually during lunchtime. When Bob comes to the PBS coach, and here we go. Bob's been through the first 4 subject areas, math, science, reading, social studies, and I'm looking at it. Oh, Bob, yeah, it's midday. Looks great. Things are looking up for you. I like what I'm seeing. How are you achieving this? I'm connecting this with Bob. I want Bob to talk to me. Or the opposite could have, Bob, things are not going well in mathematics right now. I've also talked to your teacher down the road. He affirmed that you just did not want to pay any attention and you refused to do the work. Can we talk about that right now? And that's the time for connect. The connect time could be a little longer than your check-in and check-out. When we talk about connect, we're not asking you to counsel. You're not counseling. You are just trying to get confirmation and affirmation. You're trying to get Bob in the situation to talk to you about issues that might be going on. And that connect time is very important because you could get some information that teachers might not know. For example, Bob did not sleep all night because he was at work. Or last night he had problems with some issue or today some kid in the hallway picked on him, and that's not a resolved situation. So you can get all that information during the connect time. So we have two types of intervention that we use with the PBIS model. One is check-in and check-out, and the other one's check-in, connect, check-out. Check-in, connect, check-out is 3 points of contact. When would you use that? Beth, Antoinette, Ken, Nicole, what's the difference between check-in, check-out, and check-in, connect, check-out? Charlie, go ahead.
If the student is more of a problem, you would use the connect.
You'd use the connect, and what's our rationale for using the connect? Again.
To catch the problem during the day.
To catch the problem
from.
Thank you. To catch the problem from probably escalating. And making sure that we get back on track. So it's a good way to connect with the student. So you can tell that this check-in, connect, check-out is it's very intensive, and it requires some training. But it's basically we would come in and we would try to train your system to use this model and try to get your faculty to work in different ways than they have been in the past. Okay, and some schools, what they have done also, they have also used parents to become check-in, check-out coaches. Some schools have also used volunteer police officers to be check-in, check-out coaches. Some schools have used paraprofessionals. Some schools have used social workers, school counselors. So you can do this however you want to do it. But the important point in here is that after implementation of check-in, check-out, after a 6-month period, 80% of your discipline referrals will go down. That's how powerful this is, okay? So I'd like you all, if you're listening out there, East, Middle, and West Tennessee, this is the time I'm going to take a break because I know I've loaded you with lots of information. You might have lots of questions. Why don't you go ahead and ask me a question? If you're anywhere in the Tennessee area and you need to ask a question or you'd like to make a comment about what I'm talking about today, please feel free to pick up the phone right now and call right in. And if we have any questions here in the audience, I would welcome any questions right now. Yes?
I know you've talked about Chicago a lot.
Yes, Nicole. Yeah.
Is there any schools in this area who are doing this program?
Yes, there are several schools who are actually on the verge of joining us. One's Mitchell Elementary School. The other one's Cason Lane Academy in Rutherford, in the Rutherford area. We're also working with several other schools in Perry County, and we also provide one-on-one services with some of the schools. But to answer your question, yes, our grant is still in its infancy. We're still growing with our community, and with time, we're hoping that we would become like Illinois and become networked and try to get this to the schools as quickly as we can. So if you are listening in today and you feel like this is something you want to take back to your faculty and have a discussion, this DVD will be available for you. I will feel free to send this to you to start a conversation. I also have another DVD that you could also get, which was my first session, that talks about the overview of PBS and what it is, and would make a great door opener for you as a faculty to get into. But that's a great question, Nicole. And do you have any other questions? East, West, and Middle Tennessee, feel free to join in at any time. All right, moving right along. I'm going to tell you, basically, I'm going to move right along to the next slide, which is the BEP cycle. Here we go. This is what it looks like. I know I'm skipping things across, but I just want to give you a global picture of how this looks like, okay? The BEP cycle basically starts out in the morning. I think before we go to the BEP cycle, we do have a phone question coming in. Please identify yourself and state your question.
Hello, Dr. Khan.
Question?
Hello?
Let me see if I can get this volume up. Is that what we need to do? All right.
Hello?
Actually, while she's getting the question up there, I'm going to, if you would bring up that BEP cycle again, we'll continue talking about that cycle. In this BEP cycle, again, we have the check-in, which is in the morning, and during the morning time, we have a number of students who have been referred into the program during check-in. And what we do is there is a referral process. Your BEP team or the PBS team will be trained on who gets referred. And again, we're talking about a secondary level intervention or a intervention that's dealing specifically with students who are at risk, okay? And I think we're getting a phone question coming in a few moments. We'll go ahead and take a question. If there are any other questions, feel free to ask.
Hello, Dr. Khan.
Yes, hi.
Hi, I'm calling from Hohenwald, Tennessee, and I teach special children all day long in a resource class. Many have emotional problems.
Okay.
Usually geared to autism or bipolarism.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
And these problems generally are organic in nature.
All right.
Many of the children are not medicated, but would likely do better if they were.
Okay.
We do a very similar kind of behavior with these students. You know, we check in with them in the morning. They stay with me most of the day. We're constantly monitoring their behavior with positive reinforcement. But I think that their intellectual level and their age would really hamper a system like this. What age would you suggest are the best ages to start this? Again, the children I deal with are 8, 9-year-old children that are generally learning disabled and have emotional factors.
Okay, that's a good question. The question again to everyone is, when do we start this? What would be the most appropriate time? And also depending on the context and the population that you're dealing with. Well, my answer to that is, number one is, for this to work and for this to be effective, number one, student must be able to cognitively decode the process and understand the process of what the goal is. I think they need to understand and buy into it would be the first thing. By telling them exactly what the expectations are, what the outcome is. I don't like the idea of having it as a prescription, which means that it is unilateral, it's one way only, and the student is not really totally vested in it. So to answer your question, I would say we need to start this at a level that they can understand it as helping to self-regulate and bring back self-control in their lives. And you can start check-in, check-out as early as 6 years of age, and you can continue that. And it works really well in upper elementary as well. And there's some research that's coming out right now that it might be tweaked and it could be adjusted to accommodate students at the high school level. And especially dealing with students with emotional behavioral challenges, I would say start them as early as possible, but they must buy into it and see that this is sort of an instrument that's going to take care of that deficit of executive functioning in their brain, that they cannot make the adequate decisions and to be able to distinguish right from wrong. So this would be a great opportunity to share with them. And just to summarize, they need to buy in, they need to be motivated, and it should not be prescriptive. It needs to be mutually agreed upon. And as I put in my first slide, it should be a contract. And I hope I've answered that question. Do you have a follow-up comment or another question?
Well, no, that was very helpful. And we are, as I said, doing a very similar program with these younger students, and we do see progress, but it's quite slow, and it must be done very consistently on a daily basis. And that's the hard part, is to get the support team, everyone on the same page all the time, because school days can be very chaotic with lots of interruptions and things. So that's maybe the hardest part, is getting everyone involved to be able to be available for it.
Yes. I just wanted to share some of my experience also serving in a capacity like you were serving. One suggestion that I would give you is, instead of having check-in, connect, check-out, I would suggest having check-in, connect, 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 and then check out. I say that because you're dealing with a very severe population group, and these students will need constant reminders and constant guidance throughout the day. So if there is a mechanism that you could build into the IEP process that would get them to connect with you more during the day, and asking the question, how can we work together to get you to a point of success? And that's the big question, and getting them to understand that you really have the best interest at heart, and never ever think that we should ever think of separating the behavior from the academics. The academics and behavior should be seen together, and you should be treated together, not being treated isolated from one another. I think that's a big point that you guys need to think about, is that it is the whole child. It is the whole child. Thank you very much for asking the question. Do you have any other questions out there, East, West, and Middle Tennessee, based on what we are talking about today? We are talking about check-in, connect, check-out. Any other questions or any questions from our class today? Okay.